Before we begin this podcast, please be advised that the following episode contains language that some listeners may find offensive and inappropriate. The opinions expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not reflect the views of the podcast producers. Listener discretion is advised.
27-year-old Damion Delgado of O'Fallon, Missouri. He is charged with murder 1, armed criminal action, and murder 2. Amy was 5 months pregnant with her third child, a baby boy.
At any point in time up to this point, did you know she was pregnant?
I did not.
What was your reaction when she pointed the gun at you?
I didn't understand. I was confused and scared. Her whole demeanor and everything just changed all of a sudden.
So what do you think your issue is, man?
I don't know.
Do you think you're a violent person?
I think I'm violent when I drink. I hit rock bottom. I hadn't seen my daughter in 3 months. And if it wasn't for the slightest possibility that I would get to see my daughter again one day, I probably wouldn't be here right now.
You are now listening to the podcast Voices of a Killer. I'm bringing you the stories from the perspective of the people that have taken the life of another human and their current situation thereafter in prison. You will see that although these are the folks that we have been programmed to hate, they all have something in common. They are all humans like us that admit that they made a mistake. Will you forgive them, or will you condemn them? They are currently serving time for their murders, and they give us an inside glimpse of what took place when they killed and their feelings on the matter now. Here are the voices of those who have killed. On Thanksgiving 2020, most families around the country were sitting down to a home-cooked meal. In the Stesler home, however, the food had long gone cold, and one seat remained glaringly empty. Amethyst Killian, a young mother of 2, had been missing since 1 a.m. that day. Instead of clinking wine glasses and sharing jokes, Amethyst's family members were calling hospitals and searching through the woods. By the next day, Amethyst's bloodied body would be found in some bramble with 20 or so stab wounds ripping apart her head, neck, and abdomen. The latter wounds had killed not just Amethyst, but also her 5-month-old unborn son. Fast forward to a brief investigation, and 27-year-old Damion Delgado was named as Amethyst's killer. The O'Fallon resident had a clean criminal record, and even the prosecuting attorney admitted that Damion's actions were, quote-unquote, unexpected to say the last, leaving many of the public asking why. In this week's episode, we're talking to the only person who can answer that question. The killer himself, Damion Delgado, joins us to tell the full, unfiltered story of Amethyst's death. We'll hear about the psychological battles Damion has dealt with and the blow-by-blow details of that one night in a Missouri park. Despite attracting the ire of the public in a high-profile case, we'll see that Damion is not the monster some would make him out to be, but a normal, misled kid who grew up in small-town Missouri. And that's exactly where our conversation begins this week on Voices of a Killer.
Damion, your crime happened in Missouri. Is that where you grew up?
Mostly, yeah. I spent about 4 years in Iowa. That was where I was born.
Okay. Your parents took you to Missouri after about 4 years old?
Yeah. Well, the guy she was dating at the time, yeah.
Okay. So your mom and dad, your biological parents aren't together?
No.
So at 4 years old is whenever you met your stepdad, or this your mother's boyfriend, I guess?
Well, 2 years old is when I met him.
Okay. So you pretty much spent your life around him?
Yeah.
Did you get along with your stepdad?
Not for a long time. Not until I was about 20.
Oh, wow. So
21.
Why did they want to move to Missouri?
To get away from the kind of lifestyle that they were living up in Iowa, which involved the drugs and
Gotcha.
all kinds of crazy stuff.
Were they successful at getting away from that by moving to Missouri?
They were, yeah. Pretty much our whole family moved down here to St. Louis from Iowa.
You lived in St. Louis?
No, I spent most of my time in St. Charles County and Lincoln County. Lincoln County, I lived from 6th grade all the way till I graduated, and then I moved back out to St. Charles County.
Gotcha. How would you describe your childhood growing up? Do you feel like it was rough or normal or what?
I had a pretty normal childhood, I think. I mean,
yeah.
The only issue I really had was my my parents weren't really there a lot. They were working most of the time just to kind of, provide for me and my sister and my brother.
Right.
I didn't see my stepdad a whole lot. I was really close with my mom.
Do you have a relationship with her today?
I do. They're actually, my mom and my stepdad are the only two people that actually talk to me.
Your siblings don't talk to you?
No.
How come?
I don't really know. I haven't really pressed that button yet.
Growing up in any way with yourself or your parents or your siblings, was there any kind of violence ever, even if it's like verbal?
I used to pick on my little sister a lot. We'd wrestle and I'd kind of hit her sometimes.
So just normal sibling play? Or pretty rough or violent, you think?
I wouldn't really say it was violent. I mean, there would be some times where I would leave bruises on my sister, but it wasn't anything that I wasn't being sadistic with it or anything like that.
Did you graduate high school?
I did, yes.
What did you do after high school?
Well, I had intended going into the Army, but that didn't quite pan out.
What made you want to go in the Army?
I felt like I didn't really have a whole lot of options coming where I came from out in Lincoln County. When I got into high school, I kind of tanked, sort of. I didn't really care a lot.
Did you do drugs and alcohol?
I smoked weed every once in a while, and I started drinking in high school, about freshman year.
Did you get like really, really drunk, or you just kind of drank a little bit here and there?
It was usually just at parties at one of my close friend's house. His mom was really cool. She'd let us drink and hang out and play party games and things like that.
So what caused you to not be able to go into the Army?
Well, technically, I went to basic training down in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Oh, so you actually did go into the Army if you went to basic training, right?
I did, yes. I shipped off to basic training. I was there for about 30 days.
How old were you?
I was 18.
Was it tough and you couldn't take it?
Yeah, pretty much. I actually went and I talked to a psychiatrist and everything there. I got freaked out. It was a culture shock that I wasn't really quite ready for, and I didn't know really how to handle it.
I've got 3 older brothers that went to the military. I got grandparents that went. So I've heard that like almost every basic training, there is a very, very small number of people that they can't do it either physically and mentally or both, or, whatever. Were you the only one like that in the group where you just couldn't take it?
No, there were about 10 of us.
How far did you get into it before you basically forfeited your time there?
I didn't even start actual basic training. There's kind of like an R&O period like there is here in prison.
Gotcha.
And that part is kind of where I lost. I was there for about 2 weeks. They tried to ship us to real basic training.
Was it more physical for you or mental for you that you couldn't take it?
It was more of a mental thing.
What was the turning point, you think, there? Was it just the people you were around? Is it the strictness? What was the turning point?
I've had a lot of time to kind of think about it, and I think it was like an attachment thing. Like I felt attached to my family that I was really close to and the friends that I had, and like all of a sudden I got ripped away from that.
Yeah, put into a different world.
Yeah, and I'm getting yelled at and all this and that. Yeah. I just think that was subconsciously I couldn't really handle it.
Certainly you knew that it was going to be a big, big change, and also you probably knew that you were going to be yelled at. You didn't prepare yourself mentally for that?
No, I don't think I did.
What was the solution to that? Did they say you give you an option, you keep pushing forward, or you can have a discharge?
No, they basically discharged me for disobeying a direct order from the first sergeant. And so the captain deemed me unfit for duty.
Yeah. Like I said, I've heard that there is groups in every, basic training that fall out for whatever various reasons, usually physical or mental or both. Do you felt like you brought that failure with you? Did you feel like you failed yourself and you brought that with you whenever you left?
I did. Yeah, because I felt really proud when I had signed up.
Right. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So I felt like I was a real big letdown to my family and people that I knew.
I imagine that would be a big effect on you, that you probably, the commitment of signing up and then all of a sudden you're breaking your own commitment, and also the armies and the country, I guess, in a way, is probably weight on you quite heavily.
Circa 2010, Damion wasn't a bad kid, just one who lacked direction in life. Unsure about what to do after high school, Damion took his shot at a military career, a decision that backfired badly. Military life was not all it was cracked out to be. The military prides itself on its Spartan-like discipline and work ethic, and this turned out to be a brutal reality shock for the teenager. Around 14% of recruits drop out before they complete basic training in the U.S., an indication of how grueling basic training can be. Think yelling drill sergeants, waterlogged boots, and days without sleep. It's designed to break people like Damion to their limits, weeding out the weak links early on. At 18, bright-eyed and fresh out of high school, Damion wasn't resilient enough to cope with the military demands. With a heavy heart, he returned to his family back in St. Charles County and to his high school drinking buddies. Now entering his young adult years, Damion looked to start a new chapter of his life. We'll hear more about that after the break.
What age were you when this happened?
This was 18. It was the summer after I graduated.
So you're a brand new adult, basically, young adult for sure. You get back, what's your first move?
Well, I ended up going and living with my parents. They had moved back to St. Charles County.
What was that like?
I guess the best word to describe it would be familiar.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like that's where I could have been.
How did they accept you of coming back from, quitting that?
They accepted me pretty well. They just said, you got to either get a job or go to school or do something.
What did you do?
Ended up getting a job. I kind of bounced through a lot of jobs up until 2016.
What kind of jobs did you do mostly?
That was pizza. I've done a lot of delivery jobs. Delivery and factory jobs are really mostly what I've done.
Yeah. So sometime in there you actually met a girl and got married. How did that happen?
I did. That was back in 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
We actually met 2 times. The first time we met, she was already dating someone, and it was through a church group I was going to called Center Point. They're based out of Lindenwood University and DeVille. I don't know if they're still open. So we met through them at a small group at this house. We really kicked it off. And she was the greatest. I thought she was the greatest ever.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that first time I met her.
How did she feel about you think?
I think that she noticed that I was different than other people. I could tell that she might have kind of took a liking to me because everything went really well.
Yeah, but you said she was actually dating somebody else?
I believe so.
Do you think you might have put a wedge between that? That's why she went to you?
Maybe. I never really talked to her about that. I know her relationship before me wasn't very good.
So how long after the first time you met like that and she caught your attention that y'all actually start moving into a direction away from just friends and more girlfriend, boyfriend?
Well, the second time we met, it was actually through Tinder.
Oh,
we ended up matching on Tinder. And so I was like, oh, I remember her from, way back. And so I messaged her and we started messaging and then we started Facebook messaging and we ended up going to Main Street, St. Charles. And we went to Picasso's.
Did y'all hit it off?
Yeah. Actually, I think we hit it off very well. She ended up inviting me to hang out a lot more and we kind of just started dating.
Y'all became intimate pretty quickly?
Yeah, we did. It was kind of like a internet relationship at first. It was a lot of messaging back and forth and memes and things like that. And we were really close doing that.
Right.
And that's going to be that was something that was very constant in my life was my relationships through technology were closer than a lot of the relationships face-to-face that I had with my sister and brother and my cousins and things like that.
Let me ask you this. Whenever the first date happened with your future wife, how long was it after that before And I Know I Love You came out?
And I Love You? Quite a while. I had a long relationship before, a high school sweetheart, if you will. And she kind of ruined my outlook on what a relationship was, things like that.
A little bit of PTSD from the relationship?
Kind of, yeah. So she would tell me that she loves me, and I would tell her that I'm not quite ready to commit to something like that yet until I knew I was for certain. You know what I mean? So that was something in the beginning of our relationship that I don't quite regret, but I wish I would have handled a little better.
So how long did it take for you guys to get actually not get married, but you asked her, I'm sure. Did you ask her to marry you?
I did, yeah.
Where'd you do that at?
So we did that at Main Street on the riverfront. It was on her birthday. We did a little scavenger hunt.
Did you get down on one knee?
I did, yes.
And she said yes, I'm sure.
Yes.
How long after that did y'all get married?
We got married January 6th of 2017. I had proposed to her in December on her birthday. We kind of got married a little early. I knew I wanted to marry her, but we got pressured into doing it sooner than I think we should have.
Who pressured you?
Her parents. They're very conservative religious.
Oh, like they didn't want y'all living together, having sex and all that stuff without being married?
Yeah, and we had got pregnant
okay.
So right around October, September.
Did y'all have a big wedding?
Not really, no. We had it at her family's church, and there was just really immediate family members.
How would you describe the beginning, 6 months to a year into the marriage?
It went well, I think. We lived with her parents for a short time while, I had started working in this factory and got up enough money to be able to get a car and an apartment, and eventually moved into an apartment together.
Looking back on how they met, Damion speaks glowingly of his now ex-wife. With his military stint firmly in his rearview mirror, the next phase of Damion's life was a happy one. Although pressured into marriage more quickly than he'd have liked, Damion loved his wife dearly, and, with a daughter on the way, the couple's future looked bright. Damion makes a telling observation during our conversation. Maybe it's a generational thing, but Damion finds that he gravitates towards digital relationships. Every stage of his romance with his wife, for example, was facilitated by technology of some kind. They first met on Tinder, they dated via a phone screen, exchanging texts back and forth, and during their time together, Damion posted frequently about the relationship on his social media channels. Take one Facebook post posted by Damion in 2017, for example. It's a picture of his wife cradling their newborn in the hospital just after her birth. Scroll up Damion's Facebook feed a little more and there's another photo, this one of a candlelit dinner set with glasses of wine and plates of portobello mushrooms. In the caption, Damion gushes over his, quote, magnificent wife. These Facebook posts are a snapshot in time, painting a picture of a happily married couple that's been frozen in digital perpetuity on the internet. Come 2020, however, and there's a sudden notable absence of Damion's wife on his Facebook page. That's because, just 3 years on, the Delgado marriage had deteriorated to the point of divorce. What was it that broke up the once happy couple? We'll find out on the next installment of this tragic story on Voices of a Killer. If you want to find out what happens next, right now, you can sign up at patreon.com/voicesofakiller. There you can find bonus content, early access, ad-free listening, and access to our chat community. So go to patreon.com/voicesofakiller to sign up now. Your support is what keeps us passionate about bringing these stories to you. I want to thank Damion for sharing his story with us today. His ability to be open and honest is what makes this podcast so special.
That's a wrap on this episode of Voices of a Killer. A big shout out to Sonic Futures, who handled the production, audio editing, music licensing, and promotion of this podcast. If you want to hear more episodes like this one, make sure to visit our website at voicesofakiller.com. There you can find previous episodes, transcripts, and additional information about the podcast. Lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Your feedback helps us improve and reach new listeners. Thank you for your support, and we can't wait to share more stories with you in the future. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Toby, and we'll see you next time on Voices of a Killer.